Well, hello.
Hello.
Good to see. Oh my God, your
Hi.
mic freaking glows.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
I already feel diminished.
Oh no, should we stop now?
No,
Is this bad
I
time?
have a lamp.
Great,
I'm totally
great.
fine.
You have your own special light source. I'm probably gonna make it worse here in a second by well, you have glasses,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that's fine, but these are special glasses. These are these are blue light
That's good.
murdering glasses and they feel great and they look great too.
They're
So
totally fine. Are you someone who's on the computer enough that you have to have things to protect your eyeballs?
I am someone who is on the computer at all, and that is and phone, and so
Yeah.
I'm at the point where any amount of engagement with screens, I'm I would prefer to have these on. We have there's like a red pair too for nighttime, which is
Like
cool.
red frames?
Yeah, the frames are identical. The
That was the
lenses
joke. The joke was
are.
the red frames was the joke part. I get
Oh, got it. I see. Yes. Yeah. Clear lenses, red
That's it
frames.
right
Yeah,
there.
totally. Yes.
That was the joke.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
where are you calling in from? Like generally, you don't have to give an address. Where are you calling in from?
Yeah, I'm in Bellingham, Washington. So I'm like
Yep.
40 miles south of Vancouver, 90 miles north of Seattle.
Are you from that part of the world originally?
Mm, no, unfortunately, no. I'm from the Midwestern suburbs. So
Yes.
this is definitely home now. But yeah,
Yes.
that's where I grew up.
Let's talk about that. So I identify you with Nashville a little bit because of I think the people I know who know you decently well, at least the folks I know you, are Nashville cats. But then
Hmm.
there was a Midwest. I didn't know where in the Midwest you were from, and then
Hmm.
you moved. You used the word home just now.
Yeah.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
So
Well,
when
I
you
just
talk about
got
what happens in your brain, tell me like soul level body connection. Like what is home? Is
Mhm.
Nashville home in some way, and the Midwest home in some way? Where you are, like when you say home, what do you mean by that?
For me, the ecosystem that I feel most connected to, um, some of that feels ancestral as well. The majority of my ancestry comes from Scotland, England, Ireland, and so this area, this what we have going on here with the mountains and the rivers and the ocean even is. Um, it just feels extremely correct in my body.
Got it.
It feels very soothing, feels very grounding. My use of the word home feels really apt in this moment too, because like many people, go back to the place where they grew up for Christmas time. And so I'm a few days back from doing that. And yeah, the feeling in my body of returning back to the suburban landscape, and then particularly in the Midwest where it's just flat, just totally flat. It felt as itchy as it felt when I was younger. I just know better now. I didn't know better then. It was
That's
my
very
really only environment, and all I knew is that it didn't feel good. But for many years, I didn't know that
yes.
something else would be available to me.
Huh.
And I actually remember the first time that I came to the Pacific Northwest, and just yeah, it's a little hard to put into language, but the overwhelming feeling in my body was like, this is it. This is it. And it wasn't like I have to live here immediately or I have to move here as soon as possible. But I'm not surprised at all that I ended up here. And after going, back to Midwest suburbs outside St. Louis for Christmas, yeah, the feeling getting back here on the plane, like when the plane landed and I stepped off, I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's the
Yeah.
feeling for sure.
I had this conversation with someone the other day about there's this like memed I don't know response like folks will travel and like it usually gets tied to like Enneagram conversations and like sevens and fours do this thing. I'm like I don't think that's actually true, but regardless, like folks will show up in a town and within moments like I could totally live here, and this is like
Yeah.
and then they go to the next town and they're like,
It's
Austin,
this one
Texas, I could
though.
totally
Yeah.
live here.
Yeah,
And we
totally.
were
Yeah.
talking, like the conversation went to like I think that that can actually like we can crack wise at that, but I think that's actually real. I think it's an actual response someone has, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that it has so much to do with the town they're in as
Mm.
much as it has to do with where they are, and that like
Yeah.
the immediate attachment to otherness of like, oh, I want to be here is less about this is great and
Mm-hmm.
more like fuck that. Like
Yeah.
this makes me want to not be where I'm from.
Well, your whole life is where you're from, as long as you're from there. If you're still living there, like, and this is the secret is you're going to take it all with you wherever you
Yes.
go. But there's the definitely the romanticized, idealized, which is why I could understand it's, attributed to fours and also sevens or whatever, whatever those things mean.
Whatever those
But
things
the
are.
the type of personality structure that leans in the direction of, romanticizing and believing that, if I just change the trappings of a life, the life itself will change.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
the thing is, though, is I also will talk to my clients sometimes about the fact that that's not totally untrue because,
Ah,
one client right now that I'm working with comes to mind and she's as we're tapping into this depth of dissatisfaction that she feels with where she's living, one of the pieces of that is that it's not walkable. And I'm like, that is extraordinarily real. Your body
yes.
would actually prefer to live in a place where the primary way that you're getting around is using your legs.
Which is less about the environment and more about what her body's telling her. Like this is a thing
Totally.
I want.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's a very, very almost too self-aware person. And so she's like, yeah, but that's probably not the thing. I'm going to take me with me wherever I go. And I'm like, you can also just move
Yeah.
and keep doing the inner work. With a lot of people I work with, they tend to be so self-aware that they're hurting themselves and they kind of need to just like relax into the experience they're actually having and extend some greater compassion in their own direction. And so I like to just help them in lowering the stakes and the way that, trying to quote unquote get their life right feels in their body, the way that
Yes.
that task feels. So you can move and you
Yep.
can not move, but I will say from my lived experience, I just feel so much better living in the Pacific Northwest
Yeah.
than I ever felt living in the Midwest. And you asked about Nashville too. There are ways in which Nashville still does feel like home for me, but that's about the people. It has
Yep.
nothing to do with the, ecosystem, the landscape. Certainly has nothing to do with the fucking humidity. Hated that every second of the 12 years I was
That's
there.
my
I
experience in
hated that.
Nashville. I can't remember the author's name, and I wish I could. I should look that thing up. But it was, and it might have been so nuanced a moment. It was just like me and someone on the radio. But I remember hearing someone talk about living on different parts of the country, and he said, "I think everyone should live." And my brain automatically stops when someone says, "I think everyone should." I'm like,
Everyone
"No, we're
should do
done now."
something. Yeah.
Good night and good luck, Tom.
Yeah.
But like, he said, I think everyone should live in Los Angeles for a season. I think everyone should live in Manhattan for a season. I think, and he wasn't what I know now. He wasn't saying like, I think LA is worth living in or Manhattan is worth. He was saying like, you don't know yourself
Yeah.
until you've actually taken yourself out of like your trained environment, and then you get to like deal with yourself.
And
If you're
nothing
comfortable,
will
go ahead.
Well, nothing will do that to you more, in my experience, than New York City and Los Angeles.
Dude,
Totally.
100%.
Actually, it's really interesting, Justin, because I didn't live in Manhattan. I worked in Manhattan, but I lived in Brooklyn for a year and a half
Yes.
back way back when, like pre-iPhone. I had a laminated subway map to get around New York City. Amazing. That's how I like to contextualize for people the time frame.
That's how I toured the country from like 1961 or whatever the hell, like wherever it was. Like for years, it was me and like actual maps.
Yeah.
And Rand McNally. That's how I got.
Yeah, that's the thick.
Dude.
Yeah. But actually, so our yes, we know some of the same people in Nashville and beyond and other places. But actually, our origin story of sorts begins in New York City in 2009, because I was one of the founders of Know Me Network. And we did, we had a screening of, I cannot remember the name of the movie, but I think you did the music for it. Am I remembering this correctly?
I didn't do the music specific, but I was involved in that project. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
What was the name of that film?
That was Live Free. Was it Live Free? Not Live Free. What was the thing
Was it
called?
like not for sale or
Not for
something like
sale. So
that?
that
It was
so
about
yes.
human trafficking.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
Wow.
that's where I first encountered your name and the names of many other people that I didn't know at the time, was working on that project and then that screening. And then many, many, many years go by and we end up connecting via social media in one way or another.
Wow.
And I was like, I wonder if this is the same person. And it is. So we didn't actually ever know each other personally, but
That's
yeah,
great.
that's where it technically started.
I love that in
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, New York.
Mm-hmm.
If you're comfortable, I would love to ask a few more questions about about you arriving where you are geographically.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
How
Yeah.
intentional were you about where you are now? In other words, like,
Mm-hmm.
was this because some folks really do, and bless them when they can. They're just,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I would like to, and they throw a dot or throw a
Sure.
dart, and they're like, that's when I go. Well, I've always wanted to. You strike me as someone who makes decisions a little bit more after like an actual process.
Now, yeah, not in my 20s, but
Okay,
definitely now.
well,
Yeah,
we're not in our 20s anymore,
yeah,
friend.
totally.
Uh, but where you are now, and the part of why I want to talk to you is your process and the way the way you've publicly processed over the last like maybe two and a
Mm-hmm.
half 3 years has been like
Mm-hmm.
really intriguing and I think insanely
Mm-hmm.
healthy.
Wow, thank you.
As
Wow.
a like, and this is a blast from the past. Like as a witness, like
Yeah.
how if the question is how do I live, part of what I've seen from you intrigues me with regards to like an answer to that question, where you don't do a lot
Mm.
of preaching, but you communicate in ways that ask, yeah, they kind of force, ask, and invite questions about like how we
Mm.
making decisions. So
Wow.
I was intrigued. You ended up in a place that wasn't like some
Mhm.
public announcement. It wasn't like you in like a fucking sprinter van and like
Yeah.
and some dogs
That would
being
have
like,
been very
"We're
Nashville
going
of
to
me.
Kansas." It was like
Absolutely. Yeah.
there were like hints, and it seemed like a personal. It seemed like a personal kind of a deep choice.
Yeah.
So I'd love to as know as much as possible
Hmm.
um, about like your process of like ending up somewhere in the Northwest. Why are you in Bellingham, Washington?
It's a great question. First of all, I just want to say, well, I guess the first is thank you for asking this question. I really enjoyed this question. I can feel the enjoyment in my body as I'm preparing to answer it. Second, thank you so much for that reflection. I hardly even know where to file that in my brain. I feel so honored to hear something like that reflected to me about the way that I have chosen to, in this season of my life, navigate the continuation of my public visibility, which I did not steward well in the first
Mm.
season of that public visibility. And um, that is actually part of the reason why I sort of, from the vantage point of anyone who's looking via social media or other outlets, it sort of does seem like I kind of just like ended up here because I over the last few years, I've really learned that my nervous system feels much better when I'm keeping the most sacred things quieter. Um, and
Will
that
you
doesn't,
do me a huge favor? Will you
yeah,
say that whole sentence again,
yes, yes.
please?
My nervous system feels much better when I'm keeping my most sacred things quieter. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That is not only hard to adjust to in modernity, it was also very difficult for me, someone like me who had this, career trajectory that was built via Twitter, mostly via, making myself like a sellable product for people,
Mm.
and thinking that that worked for me for a long time. And there's ways in which it did, but mostly it didn't. It worked well for me to make a lot of money for a few years, but it was really disastrous to my psyche and to my soul and to my relationships. Like I barely even had any at the time. It was all I was doing was quote unquote working. And the work was just being heavily online and being largely dysfunctional loudly. on the internet. And so what happened really is that around the time that you earmarked there in your reflection to me, I fell in love. And he happened to, and still does, live in Bellingham, Washington. And that's the simple answer for how I got here. He also has two kids, and so it wasn't going to be a situation where he comes to Nashville. I had been looking also for a reason, a substantial reason to leave Nashville. I actually thought I was going to move to London because I'd gone on a big European sabbatical for a few months and met some incredible people in London, and actually, like, met someone I was falling in love with in London and just felt very at home in the city there, and in many ways still do. But then this connection with my partner Ty occurred, and it was so abundantly clear that that was we could say correct, but it was just like what I want. It was exactly what I wanted, and so there wasn't because he's a parent, there wasn't a situation where he was going to move to Nashville or where we were going to go anywhere else. It was okay, if we're going to really do this and be committed, it's Bellingham. And the ironic thing that I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this conversation is that, the first time I came to this region of the world, I was so enchanted. And throughout, I would say because the first time I came here was 2016. So from 2016 until I moved here in 2024, well, I guess I'll say from 2016 until I went to London and was like, wow, I love it here. There were only two cities that I had considered and even started trying to attempt to move to, and they were Vancouver and Seattle. But the main thing is I was like, they're so expensive, and I had all these reasons why they won't work. And so it feels kind of miraculous that I ended up in this lovely little, town of 90,000 people that has everything great that Vancouver and Seattle have, and none of the things that Vancouver and Seattle have that I don't want, like, significant overpopulation. And it was extremely intentional. And also it feels like it happened to me. It happened for me. It happened through me in a way that I could not have made happen for myself. Bellingham was not on my radar in any way.
Do you feel guided in that way? Is that a word you would use?
Absolutely. Yes. I have felt that for the majority of my life. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. May I ask you some questions about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So you talk about you're mentioning this process of decision making. You've got London, you have Nashville,
mm-hmm.
you even say, and this is part of why I really like the way you do what you do, is your comfort level on saying, like, there was someone in London with whom I was falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of folks, and this is like part of the public narrative that really fucks with the personal process, is like the public narrative is like, I'm falling in love, and like that's the world, that everything happens around this.
Sure.
The possibility of like being in love with someone and then being like, but I'm also like open to and falling in love with someone else, and now I have like not just a decision to make, because that's like that's two decisions are just so cut and dry. That's as if, like, I just do the math and flip a coin and that's how it works.
Yeah.
You're the old school word here is like discernment.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
How does Jamie Lee Finch discern that season? What is it? Do you have practices? Are you spilling tea on the ground to figure out which way it drips? Like, in what? Like, are there
runes? Casting runes?
Sure. Are there sure. whatever gets you there? Like, are there processes that you engage in that you trust? Like, when we can't trust. This is the real question. When we can't trust or are unable to, like, with our own internal mathematics, be like, this is very clear. How do you go about, like, coming to a place of either clarity or just willingness to, like, choose between things? What did your discernment process look like over the last couple of years?
Yeah. I would say, as it relates to this life transition, and even to get specific and place it in the context of maybe the contrast between this place that comes with this individual and this place that happens to come with this individual. Well, first of all, I'm poly, and so there's no real internal struggle of like falling in love with this person and also this person too. And in the midst of that, additionally, I was starting to, in my personal solo journey, wake up to the fact that the the identity I had assumed and was living out of for many years, probably since, I don't know, I think the first time I remember verbally saying, "Oh, I don't want children," I was like 10. I think I might have been even younger than that. And I had this like really strong, like defensive
Hmm.
maintenance of that identity as like, I'm this type of woman. I'm not that type of woman. I'm a more interesting kind of ridiculous. But I had been waking up to the fact that I was like, maybe that's not totally true. And my body is making it clear to me as I get older that this actually might be a boat that I don't want to miss. And so it's not as simple as me saying I could see myself having a child with, one of these people and not the other one. It's not really quite that simple, but there were definitely ways in which, as I started to wake up to this desire within myself, um, the the path that felt most conducive to that not just happening, but going well in a way that was and remains aligned with my integrity,
That's good.
very obviously led me in this direction
Because
as
there's a
opposed to the
massive
other.
difference between like a thing happening, an important
Hmm.
thing happening
Hmm.
versus doing it well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes.
That's with parenting specifically
Hmm. Hmm.
for folks from, we'll just say, a particular background.
Hmm.
It's a thing that happens. It's a
Yes.
matter of happenstance. It's a matter of mathematics. It's this happens and this happens and this happens.
And I'm so grateful I had that personality structure for as long as I did because I didn't allow it to just happen to me. I'm
That's
so
good.
grateful that now at 37, I'm moving in the direction of doing this with absolute intention and enthusiasm,
That's really
as
good.
opposed to it being something that was just bestowed upon me because my religion of origin and the culture that I was entrenched in at the time said I had no other option. I'm very, very grateful. And um, I talked to my sister, I was talking to my sister over Christmas and just reflecting to her how fascinating and funny it is to me now that for decades I thought it was like the most uninteresting thing that a woman could do. And I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah,
Like,
you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
you don't. And my sister started having children like in her like mid 20s. And I mean, she knows this is out in the open. I judged her hard as just like, she can't seem to find anything better to do. And I remember like looking at her, we were like together on New Year's Eve, and I was like, what better thing is there? I know, I understand now. I'm so sorry. So it's a both and of like,
Yep.
I'm really glad I didn't move in that direction any earlier
Yep.
than this life moment. And it is just very funny just how deeply I hid this desire from myself for so long.
It's a really beautiful human truth that a thing can be fundamentally, comprehensively, entirely true
Hmm.
at a certain point,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
be not true
Yep.
later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to be right at 26, like I don't
Hmm.
want to have kids,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
like everything around you being like fucking don't, please.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things, Justin, that I really had to get over was this feeling of like, well, because people kept telling me either they would say you might change your mind, or the really difficult ones were the people who are like, oh, you will change your mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck you. No, I won't. And so it was actually hard for me to get over that internalization of like,
Yeah.
what does it mean if I do? Then they're right about me. And I was like, I don't care. Like
Yeah.
that didn't happen right away, but
Yep.
I'm a big fan of law of attraction and Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks,
Yep.
and she will often use this phrase: "Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?"
100%.
So I was like, who cares if they lean back in some satisfaction that they were correct. Okay, they can have that. It's fine. I had no idea life was going to take me down this path. They didn't either. They were just saying words.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
It is part in the spiritual formation direction community, like the or culture. Like part of what happens in from first half of life to second half of life
Mm.
is that like during the first half of life, like rightness and correctness actually matter for a while. Like
Yeah.
it's like bowling with bumpers. Like
Hmm.
I kind of need the bumpers because it's not just like, well, I'm stupid and I'm gonna make a mess. Like I will hurt you. So if
Yeah.
I don't have the rules, I will hurt
Yeah.
other people.
That's a great point. Hmm.
Versus like later on, if I have been refined and I have refined my interests, my will, and my practices, then I've kind of earned the right to say, this is what I want. So the line
Mm.
between do you want to be
Mm.
right and do you want to be
Hmm.
happy is
Mm.
actually a line it's not maybe a line, but like at some point I do sort of like, I move from the one realm of
Hmm.
I really should work to be right
Yeah.
because my happiness
Yeah.
is probably going to mess with someone else's
Sure.
well-being
Yeah. Yeah.
to like no actually being happy. I've earned the right to
Yes.
pursue my happiness
Yes.
because I know I'm not going to step on someone else. To some
I've learned how
degree
to trust
my happiness is
myself.
entangled with
Hmm.
other people's happiness now,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah. It's definitely a learned skill over a long period of time to be able to trust oneself and
Yes.
also to be able to trust oneself with other people. And like we've got to do this thing with other people. That
Yep.
there's no, I mean, interestingly in modernity, you kind of don't have to, but it's better if you do. You could
Yes.
go your
Yep.
entire life at this point just working on a computer in your own home, paying your bills, never developing deep relationships with anyone, getting all your food delivered. Like it's quite scary that we actually could be entirely isolated if we really actually wanted to.
Yep.
But if you're going to do the more primal human thing of, remember that you're a pack animal here, it's going to necessitate you learning how to become trustworthy with the other people that are
Yep.
doing this here with you. And I really love that language and that distinction that, you know, in that first phase of life, how could we possibly be we need the rules because we couldn't be trustworthy because we just got here.
You just got here.
We don't know ourselves. We don't know how
Yeah.
this works. We don't know how to be
Yeah.
tender with something or with someone. And so the process of like breaking things and learning how to repair
Yep.
those things afterwards is how we learn how to be trustworthy.
I do this thing with some of my guests that I would like to try with you if you with your permission is it's a
Mm-hmm.
kind of a practice of lexicon. So they're
Mm,
words that that there are words that you will use that you mean certain things by. And
mm-hmm.
one of the mistakes, it's one of the reasons I do this,
Yeah.
is one of the mistakes we make is by associating our definitions with other people's uses of the same word.
Yeah.
Like when you say a thing, I assume you mean what
Mm-hmm.
I mean by that, which is like
Mm-hmm.
probably 80% of the time, like right on the edge of disastrous. Like that's not what
Mm.
they mean by that when they say
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
So I want to throw some words at you, and here's how it's like a game, but you don't win shit. Um,
Great.
uh, is I'm just gonna put some words on the table, and I would love for you to just kind of vamp. So like
Hmm.
whatever comes out of you
Hmm.
when I throw these words out.
Great.
Um, Talk about, and this is specifically in the context of you said a thing earlier. This is on the list, anyways. You said it earlier about what was the phrase you used? You talked about like your you didn't use the word persona, but you talked about like who you were online.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so you have the yeah, my public persona is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So will you talk about the word persona
Mm-hmm.
specifically in relationship to the word personhood? Talk about persona versus personhood. What happens in your mind when I put those two words together in front of you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna start with what happens in my body first
Yeah.
because obviously,
Yes, please.
what happens in my body when you say the word persona, it feels cold and it feels sleek and it feels inanimate,
Hmm.
um, like a like a surface that's being polished. That I don't know. Like I had a lot of like kitchen hospitality jobs in my past, and I think of like the feeling that I get when I hear the word persona is almost just like the stainless steel prep surface. It's so clean that it's so sterile that there's not really it's not very compelling. You wouldn't put it as a decorative item in your home.
Right.
It serves a purpose, but it's also like slick. It's kind of like slippery. Like it doesn't have a lot of like texture and animate life to it. And then when I think about personhood, and I have a particular affection for that word because the methodology that I've created and been working with for the last 10 years is called personified embodiment, and it's about, anchoring into the reality of the whole personhood
Mm-hmm.
of the physical form, of the physical body. They have an innate wisdom and innate intelligence. They talk. They in fact they know exactly what to do at all times, and if they're not able to do it, they're able to communicate to you what they need to be further resourced to be able to do it. And so when I think of the word personhood, it feels much more vibrant and alive. It definitely feels warm. Like persona feels cold, personhood feels warm. It feels like I can relax into the word personhood. It feels safe and trustworthy because it feels alive, and it feels like something that I can have a dialogue with, and something that I can get to know. And I'm trying to see if there's like a feel. Okay, yeah. So in contrast to like the stainless steel surface, personhood feels like a velvet pillow. Like that's like the somatic feeling of the difference of, those two words. And, it's interesting that I have used the word persona very, very often, possibly even as much as I've used the word personhood in my career. And I am definitely describing, when I'm talking about the persona and talking about kind of the branded image of self, and therefore of body, that I needed to portray, or thought I needed to portray in order to succeed in being seen and having my message be heard, so that I could do my work and pay my bills and make it or whatever.
Yep.
Definitely that that use of that word persona is, for me, intrinsically contrasted with personhood. And the irony there is that I have built my whole career in talking about the personhood of the body. I think what else they do is, it is quite funny to me that my online course that I created, called Your Body as a Person, to introduce people to this methodology of personified embodiment, 5 years ago, me, who made it, was had not done all of the psilocybin that she was yet to do. And so had like a full face of makeup and red lipstick and my, dyed black hair. And none of that is wrong, but it's interesting that I brought the persona into this, body of work that I was creating, where I was attempting to communicate to people without really being able to fully model it at the time, admittedly. I was trying to teach people about the personhood of the body while feeling this like remaining discomfort in myself of being able to just relax into the full personhood of my body and just remove the persona.
That's really good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to hear you talk about, you use the phrase "my body," and I want to hear you talk about the phrase "my body," not just the word "body," but "my body," in relationship to the word ownership. So I'm putting those two words on the table. Please talk to me about like your use of the word "my body" and then the word ownership, and what does that do? And I will actually, let me take a half step back and say thank you for the catch. I used the word "mind," and you corrected me, and you were very kind about it, because I'm not as interested in what's happening in your mind as if it's the same. So tell me what happens in you. Although I'll be better about this, I promise.
Yeah.
Tell me what happens in you when I put the words in front of you, "my body" as a phrase, and then the word "ownership."
What happens in me is I immediately change ownership to stewardship. And this could be an issue of semantics, but it feels so much better. Um, the idea of owning, like I even struggle with using the word own or ownership, owner when talking about my pets
Hmm.
because they're animate and they're alive and they have degrees of agency. They may not, have the same amount of full agency as a human being, but
Hmm.
they're certainly not pieces of furniture. They're certainly not, objects that I purchased and that I get to be in 100% exclusive control over how they exist and how they function.
Which is the thing my dog reminds me of regularly when I will
Yep.
throw the ball. She will run. I will throw the ball. She will run out very happily,
Uh-huh.
find the ball. She will
Uh-huh.
pick it up in her mouth and she will
Yep.
look dead
Yep.
in my eyes
Oh yeah.
and then drop it right where it is,
Yes. That's
knowing
right. That's right.
full well I want you
Hmm.
to bring.
That's your job.
I want you to bring it back. She
Your
says,
job is to bring it back.
and then I have to go get it.
Now, okay, I was going to say, no, do you go get it? Because
Oh gosh, yeah.
my dog does the same thing and I go get it. And every time I'm like, I am teaching him that this
No,
works, but I
I've
don't
given
know
in.
what else to
I'm
do.
in love with the dog, and like I will do whatever it takes. I'm not
Yeah.
going to.
Okay. So, yeah, anyone who loves a dog
Yeah,
knows that the word ownership doesn't totally
it does
work
not encapsulate. It's
there.
very good.
Yeah. And I feel the same way about my body, about the body.
Hmm.
About the spiritual technology that is the body, about this living dance of perpetual dialogue that we are in as consciousness animated temporarily into living matter. We love to in industrialized modernity, we don't really have any issue thinking of ourselves as, people who have agency, but thinking of the body as having their own innate agency is very, very, very difficult for
Yes.
us. And in fact, it's so difficult for us that, or maybe I could say I believe it's so difficult for us precisely because we have, with the best of intentions, but with, um, maybe the the we haven't we our skills at being able to gather data has
Mm,
increased over time,
a little bit.
yeah, a little bit. And so about 150 years ago, medicine made some choices about bodies, or what emerged as the dominant organizing structure that became the medical industry, made some very clear, overt, and covert decisions and statements about what a body is and what a body is and is not capable of doing. And and it's a bit of a both and, where that was decided upon because it was the prevailing cultural idea, but because that was decided upon, it further solidified that being the prevailing cultural idea. Now, if you look throughout human history, that's a very strange idea, because for the majority of the time that our species has existed, we have interacted with the physical body and all of living matter as animate and intelligent and
Hmm.
wise and communicative and all of those things that I said. And so it's it is very I think it's very challenging for most modern people to conceptualize of having any type of relationship with their body apart from a relationship of control-based ownership. And what I am most interested in and am deeply passionate about offering to people and teaching to people is that not only is there another way, this other way is the true way that is most innate to you, that has been stolen from you. It is your birthright, it's your inheritance to remember that this spiritual technology of your living matter is, not only can you not own them because they can't be owned, but a partnership with them is
Hmm.
what is going, like a real, true, loving, intentional. I do this motion with my hands a lot when I talk to my clients about this, because it's this like dance of like,
Yes.
and I'll often talk about how In a relationship, it's never the case that one person is in charge and gets to be in control 100% of the time. I mean, if that is the case, it's a very unhealthy relationship. What's always going on in healthy generative relationship is that sometimes you lead and the other individual follows, and then
Yes.
sometimes they lead and you follow. That is the way it's supposed to be in relationship with our bodies. So
Yeah.
I believe stewardship is a perfectly acceptable word for that, as long as we're willing to admit that we are stewarding the body and the body is also stewarding us.
That's really good.
Us as consciousness, we're stewarding this living matter. The living matter, knowing things that we don't know, the living matter is stewarding the evolution of our consciousness.
That's really
That's
good.
happening simultaneously.
What the word industrialism comes up a bunch, and part of what I'm coming to grips with, part of what I'm coming to think. I come to very few conclusions anymore. Is there's an industrialism which is like an expression of a thing, but the subcurrent is progress. That like, and I don't know if you've read Francis Weller's work at all. Francis Weller, he wrote a book called "In the Absence of the Ordinary." It's fantastic, and he talks about the inherent problem with progress as a posture towards life is that it tends to it constantly reinforces a negation of and a dissatisfaction with like whatever is like
Yeah.
so whatever,
Yes.
whatever is
Wow.
I'm dissatisfied with unless I can use it to get me somewhere I'm not. So it's just like 3-tiered like sandwich of horse shit that
Yes.
like I am.
It sounds exclusively transactional.
Well, and if I am always only going to be happy,
Yeah.
when I get to where I am not, then the only value available to me is use. So industrialism becomes a manifestation of this like deeper
Absolutely.
philosophy of like right now is not enough.
Yes.
What I have is not enough. Who I am is not enough. And the body tends to, my body, in my experience at 52, my body tends to be very happy right where he is. Like we're fine.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like the sort of a realm of like very thin idea that wants to pull me away from the now and from the present. So I really like, and the phrase you kept using, you talked about spiritual machinery is a fantastic.
Yeah. Spiritual technology. Yeah.
Spiritual
Machinery is a fun word too. Yeah.
Well, spiritual technology, that's the word. And it counters, there's a book by, I'm going to blank on his name, Kurzweil, who's one of these Google people that I've hated for a very long time. And I've read it like 10 times to figure out why I hate it so much. And the book is called The Age of Spiritual Machines. And part of what he does with the book is he actually flips, in my estimation now, in a really bad way, the relationship between like what we've meant by spiritual and what we meant by machinery.
Wow.
And you are undoing that for me, and for a lot of other folks. I think in the way you do what you do. Two more of these, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You mentioned self-awareness. Will you please vamp on the phrase and the practice of self-awareness?
Oh boy. Self-awareness. What could I say about self-awareness? Well, the first thing that comes up for me in this moment is it feels very of the moment that I am in life right now, which is that self-awareness necessitates you have to have relationship in order to have legitimate self-awareness. You have to have real invested relationship because you can't actually, as much as this was, I regret to inform all of us that you can't actually access self-awareness by only just like navel gazing and looking at yourself. And also I regret to inform everyone that isn't me this time that you actually can't attain any amount of self-awareness just using ChatGPT as your therapist. It's not going to work. So self-awareness, I think comes through the avenue of living honestly, living vulnerably in relationship with other human beings and allowing them to not only interact vulnerably and honestly with you in a way that it just is true for them, but allowing them to interact vulnerably and honestly with you in a way that holds a mirror up to the things that they're seeing in you that you not it's not even just that you don't see them, you can't see them.
Yes.
That's the nature of the game.
That's good.
That's why we can't do this by ourselves, and that's
Good.
why so much dysfunction psychologically, physiologically, spiritually, etc., comes is currently in modernity coming from the fact that we are trying so hard to just do this alone and or with a machine, like with various machines, with artificial intelligence, like. And also what comes up for me when I think about self-awareness is yeah, again, I think about it somatically, especially now that I'm a touch-based, facilitator as well. And very often the people that have the greatest amount of self-awareness, whether that's like the type of self-awareness that can and does come from lots of time spent with oneself and reflecting with oneself and journaling, etc., or even the type of self-awareness that comes through the vehicle of relationship with other people, very often, like I said earlier, we can have this tendency, and I think this fits right in the pocket of what you were just sharing of this, production use-based, way of being in the world. We very often can use that self-awareness to unconsciously keep ourselves looping in a state of shame, because that's actually the point. One of the things that I say in all avenues and expressions of my work is that if you want to understand human behavior, you can understand it very easily and very simply, everyone else's and yours too, by understanding that everything that everyone is always doing is they're unconsciously seeking their most familiar somatic state 100% of the time.
Wow.
And the goal, as Carl Jung talked about, is to make the unconscious conscious so that you can, in my opinion, he might not have brought the somatics into this, but I can't help it. So the purpose of making the unconscious conscious is so that you can work with, to dialogue with the person of your body, this technology of your body, which this technology is interested in stewarding the evolution of your consciousness. So work with them on that. What that means is capacity expansion. So for most of us, for the vast majority of us, our most familiar somatic state because of our developmental experiences is the state of shame. And so very often what I see in people that I work with I've heard this constantly for 10 years. People will tell me over and over and over, I've done X amount of years of therapy. I've done this, and nothing has gotten me to the place that a few sessions of this somatic based work with you has gotten me to. And I'm sure there's many reasons for that. But one of the things that feels really fundamentally true to me about that is very often in just like the thinking mind, verbal communication based therapies, the goal, whether it's spoken or unspoken, is to increase your self-awareness as if that will facilitate change in and of itself. And my whole point is that not only will it not facilitate change, it will actually very often have the exact opposite effect, because it will keep you looping in a shame state, because your actual unconscious goal is to stay in your most familiar and comfortable state. So you have to work with the body. And so basically all of this is to say, some of the people, I would say the population of people that I most enjoy working with, especially in the realm of people who get on my table to do body work with me, are the most on it, vigilant, self-aware, responsible, have just had these current or past lives of just like running all the shit and succeeding. And they're feeling all sorts of sensations of everything from burnout to just complete, dissociation in their somatic experience, and they don't understand why, because they up here in their brains, they have so much awareness, and it has everything to do with the fact that their nervous systems have to be, you have to titrate. Again, this is something I've written about and talked about with people a lot. you have to titrate, peace
Hmm.
into a system that is oriented towards vigilance.
Break down the word titrate.
You have to infuse peace very, very slowly. You almost have to sneak up on the body. Like the core of my
Yeah.
hands-on work that I do now, it's deep nervous system reset and rewiring
Yeah.
work. And it takes place over an extended period of time. The sessions are usually about 2 hours on the table because I'm moving very, very slowly and doing a lot of fascial work around the table because you have to titrate, you have to slowly infuse a sense of safety. Like the body has to adjust to feeling safe with peace. The
Yes.
body has to adjust to feeling safe with I don't know, what would we say is the opposite of shame? Let me pose it to you. What would you say if I were to ask you, what word would you use as the word that's the opposite of shame?
Self-love.
Yeah, great. Yes, like real, genuine, authentic, uninhibited self-love. Yes. And
Yeah.
that's exactly the process that I see with people over the period of time that I work with them is going
Parker.
from their most familiar state being one of
Yeah.
shame to one of being real self-love.
Parker Palmer writes about the about he talks about the human soul and he uses the imagery of wild animals, and he says the
Mm-hmm.
human soul is more like a wild animal, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't go like gallivanting in the woods to go like find, because that it will be frightened and
Yeah.
run off.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
in the context of one of the other projects I do, like part of what when we talk about soul care, which is very much like a head fake word, because this is part of why I do what I do in this. Like I say the word soul, and a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
people I'm working with think I mean a thing.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, we're gonna,
Yeah.
you're gonna find out that I mean something very different than that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the human soul, my wholeness, who I am wholly as a human, is mostly afraid of misuse because that's been
Mm.
my affective training. Like
Mm-hmm.
most of the systems around me, for better for worse, and with uh, even without ill intent, I'll say it like that. I want to say with good intention. Maybe I can. Anyways,
Mm.
without ill intent, sometimes with good intention. Um, like I've been harmed systematically
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or used systematically.
Yeah.
And for the human soul to actually trust that what I'm entering into is going to actually be beneficial and that I
Yeah.
will actually be healthy and actually
Yep.
be cared for.
Yep.
There's so much I find in myself and in a lot of my clients, so much legitimate and very, very reasonable
Mm-hmm.
reticence.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to give
Yes.
myself over to this
Yes.
because it's been 70% good at times, top
Mm-hmm.
end, 70%
Yep.
good, but that 30%, like I'm
Yeah.
living with it.
Yeah. Yes.
And the pace at which healing and wholeness are talked about,
Mm-hmm.
it like is that heroic, person with like all the gear who runs off into the woods and
Yeah.
to go and find the wild animal. So
Yes.
the word you used a second ago that I asked you to redefine is what was the word?
Was it titrate?
Yes,
Was that the
titrate.
word? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The time it actually takes to because you can't just inject, you can't just put a needle in it.
Mm-mm.
You have to
Mm-hmm.
provide like the space
Yeah.
and the time
Mm-hmm.
for one's body, for one's person to actually receive whatever goodness you're trying to make available.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the
Yes.
actual gift you're affording people is like, we're going to take the time to do it. I don't have a
That's it.
thing. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get into your life.
Yes.
I'm actually more
Yeah.
so trying to get you into a place in which you can receive the goodness that's actually available to you.
Mm-hmm. And be able to consistently self-facilitate it is
That's
the
good.
thing too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, Thanks for your time. If I can
Mm-hmm.
borrow on like 3 more minutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I want to say a couple things if you'll receive them, and then I'll ask you a question. So in our shared past historical religious upbringing, there's this wonderful
Mm-hmm.
imagery I come back to that I want to tell you. I think I'm watching you embody and practice, and there's a whole other set of conversations to be had here about there's a very smaller set of conversations about religion and
Mm.
specifically Christian practice and this like wild disconnect between like the imagery and the symbolism actually available and then like the
Mm-hmm.
public practice. And so like
Mm.
on at 40,000 feet to be around, and this is part of why I really resonated with your book initially, a long time ago.
Mm.
It was just a really wild disconnect between like a tradition that banks itself on the birth of and then the physical resurrection of a person, and
Mm.
then in practice is so afraid of
Mm-hmm.
physicality
Mm-hmm.
and bodily. That's
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
wild disconnect.
I
It's
know.
like it
Yes.
drives me nuts.
Yes.
Part of what I watched you do, and this is my favorite. This is actually my favorite part of the way the story is told. Is I think the pivot point in the entirety of the narrative is this moment in which this young woman has received this message, and the writer says that Mary cherished these things in her heart for a season.
Mm-hmm.
The choice she makes to
Mm-hmm.
just take it in and just
Yeah.
hold it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take it in. I'm going to hold it. And then when it
Yep.
is ready,
Yep.
when my body is ready, I will
Mm-hmm.
then give birth to a person
Uh-huh.
that I need to care for,
Mm-hmm.
who will then eventually be entirely out of my control. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no like everything about that piece of the Christian narrative is a relinquishing of control
Yes.
and a giving oneself over to processes
Mm-hmm.
that are better than our machineries.
Yes, that's
And
exactly right.
part of what I've admired in what you do, and part of what why I wanted to have this conversation is, um, this. So we're at a pivot point, like the acceleration of like health processes
Mm-hmm.
and wholeness processes. Like there's wonderful cultural hunger. I want to be well. I want to be
Yep.
healthy. I want to run
Yep.
a marathon. I want
Mm-hmm.
to like, I want to be able to walk on my own two legs when I'm in my 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So much of this desire is being met by, how do I want to say this kindly? By really shitty salesmen
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
who have no real interest in the process because you can't really sell it.
Yep. That's right.
And
Yep.
I'm watching you do a thing in which your level of expertise and intelligence, and experience, like would normally demand like insert yourself here,
Mm-hmm.
make a new product, make it sellable. And
Mm-hmm.
you've chosen this very other way of actually doing what you do, which is quieter
Mm-hmm.
and probably I'm guessing far more satisfying for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been beautiful to watch. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, and the more to the point, like the way you have done what you've been doing over the last
Mm-hmm.
like few years is like, I think it's beautiful and I think it's necessary and I think it's the kind of good that actually makes long term for realsies like sustainable
Yeah.
life change in human souls.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's why I
Wow.
wanted to chat with you.
Thank you. That
So I wanted to hear people. I want my folks paying attention to me.
mm,
Hear like someone I admire talk about how she does what she does,
yeah.
because I don't give a shit what they do. I really don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care what you make. I don't care what your end goal is. I really care who you are as you do it. And I
Yes.
really care about how you go about it because that's the ball game.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
you're a great witness and example to the folks I'm trying to care for.
Thank you, Justin. That feels really appropriately timed to the moment that I'm in as well, both
Okay, good.
personally and professionally, where I'm struggling a bit. I'm wrestling a little bit with like considering moving back in the direction of increased visibility for the express purpose of allowing this thing that I'm stewarding to come through me with the utmost effectiveness
Yep.
and potency. Because if I'm fully closed and retracted and just saying that I'm just like protecting my peace or whatever, or, it was a nice season, but I'm starting to feel internally and in a positive way externally challenged around like, okay, but can I expand? Can I actually expand for the purpose of getting out of the way
Yep.
and letting this thing that I've discovered come through me and release any attachment to it being about me at all in the bigness and in the smallness,
Yep.
in the I need to be important or in the I don't need to be important anymore. Can I how far away from that can I move altogether
Yep.
and just be devoted to this process that I believe in so much? How deeply can I be devoted to bringing forth an impactful body of work that doesn't need to be impacted or influenced by like my comfortability with being seen or not. And so yeah, it's I would not have gotten here without having those few years of really just they were aligning. I was actually sharing with a client last night about how distressing, how jolting it was for me when about 4 years ago now, a little over 4 years ago now, I like woke up kind of all of a sudden to the way in which I had been behaving online, but also like, how I was behaving online was an extension of like how I was holding my own system or like
Yep.
not holding my own system. And just the sudden awareness of just how far outside of my own integrity I
Hmm.
was so disorienting that I feel like I didn't have any other choice but to like retreat and lick my wounds and figure out how the fuck I did that.
Yep.
And that's been a really helpful and productive it's been a really helpful and productive season of time doing that. And I'm starting to wonder if well, I'm not starting to wonder. I'm clear now, actually, as of last night in this conversation with a client,
Good.
because she was talking about how like her like younger self was like inclined towards optimism in a way that she hurt herself with in some ways. And she sees that now. In the last 3 years of her life, she has come into a deeper integrity with herself and her body to be able to not use that as like an escape hatch, like
Hmm.
optimism as an escape hatch, but also now that she's at this point after these 3 years, she's like, I've got to get some of that optimism back or I
Yep.
think I'm going to die.
Yep.
And I'm like, for me, it felt super resonant because I'm like, that ferocity, that, interest in visibility. I am so glad that I've had the last few years of knowing really like I said, like titrating into my own nervous system, the safety of the quiet, the safety of the private. I'm so grateful I've had that. And I don't know if what I'm doing, I know now actually, I am now clear that what I am here to like Mary in the story you're telling, what I'm here to bring forth through me, not what I'm here to do on my
Exactly
own.
right.
I can't do it. This is
No.
like the whole reason why there is this narrative mythology around the Immaculate Conception. She couldn't do it by
Nope.
herself. We can't do it by ourselves. So
Nope.
I am now in the last 24 hours, I shit you not, like I'm clear that I'm like, okay, I've got to actually bring back and integrate. This is the word. I have to reintegrate. That's what I talked about with my client last night. Like she deserves to integrate her
Yes.
former optimistic self into her realistic self
That's
and let that be the expansion. I deserve to integrate my former interested in visibility self with my really satisfied with the peace and quiet self
yep.
in order to expand fully into becoming a vessel that
Yep.
is expanded and strong enough to allow the work that wants to come through me that has nothing to do with me to come through me. And I think I'm starting to suspect that that process is maybe somewhat universal. Like we've got these like younger parts with these older strategies. And as we mature, initially we're like, fuck you, get out of here. And we
Yeah.
think like, now I've got it. And then I don't think we can ultimately get to where we want and need to go to be as effective in our willingness to partner with the divine, I don't think we can get there without looking at those younger parts and saying, you not only get to come with me, you have to come with me. And now that I know that you have to come with me, I want you to come with me.
Yeah. It's who uses the phrase, he borrows on it from someone else. The notion of transcendence and inclusion.
I think that's Richard Rohr.
I think Rohr uses it, but it doesn't come
He uses
from
it too?
him.
Okay. Yeah.
And it gets bastardized in so many ways, but the reality of part of how we live disintegratedly is and again, like the imagery of like the Christian imagery of Christ resurrected in a body in and of itself is a thing. And that part of why he's recognizable is because he looks like he was wounded. You bring it with you.
I have a poem about that, actually.
Or you're not whole. I have a poem about that too. We should.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. Well, you've been generous with your time. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
If people are going to find you, and we'll do like a whole show notes thing. What is the best way if people, because you and I both know like they'll do one thing, so we don't need to give a bunch of options. If we're going to give our friends one thing to like one place to go right now and click, where they're going.
Let's say Instagram, because Jamie Lee Finch on Instagram. If you click on the link in the bio of that page, you can find everything else you need. So yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.